Hey there everyone, and welcome to another skill rune showcase. This one, it's the 3 skill runes that have come out in the new festival. That is 3 for each class. There's a lot to get through, and I'm going to do my best to get through them quickly. So just to quickly say, the way you get them is in the Golden Solstice Festival, and you've got to buy the particular, bundles from the shop. There's one for each skill rune, and then you've got to go through and, do you see here, it says do tournament runs while wearing the particular skin you get. You do 15. You need to do 90 in total, and that's where you get 3 different skill runes. So, the 3 for Wizard, I'm most excited about Wizard. On the whole here, they're mainly repeats of previous skill runes, but in a new element. So they're cool, but then, nothing that exciting, except for Infested Pig, which is the really cool one. So Radiant Ball here, this is an almost exact copy of Empowered Fire Blast, minus the slow and with the additional effect of increasing your light damage. That increasing your light damage for 1 second is almost pointless, because for one, it's not by much, and it's only for 1 second, so you're probably not going to be able to use anything and make the most of that. But as you can see, the damage is very similar that you add on, and the area of effect is identical. So it's got the largest area of effect of the skill runes, which is great fitting, good targets and stuff. We haven't actually got light element. This is the final element to be added onto Arcane Ball, so that's quite cool in itself. However, I don't think it's good as Empowered Frozen Sphere, because that's got the really heavy slow and also it's water damage, so it can be boosted by Master of Ice. Anyway, I will show it here just quickly. If we get some enemies out. Yeah, okay, I'll talk about the next skill and we'll come back to that. So the one for Drake here, Light Drake, this, again, it's kind of a copy, but then with removed effects removed. It's got no additional effects, no ice spike that comes down, no damage over time. It's just flat light damage on top. So good for facing shadow enemies, and especially because with these elements you can't boost them with your elemental stats. So you're never really going to be able to get one particularly strong compared to the others. However, the damage over time from Nature Drake is incredibly high. I talked about it in another video when I first showed that. And basically, Nature Drake is stronger by a long shot. However, against shadow enemies, Light Drake will be good. So that's its use there. I'll just show Nature Drake first, and so you can see the damage over time effect. It's hitting like 100,000 on top of the... I can't remember the exact number of how much damage the other stuff deals, but basically that damage over time effect adds a ton of damage on top. So when you look at the Light Drake, bear in mind these are light enemies, so they take half light damage, but that doesn't do anything more than the normal damage. Actually, is that attacking faster? I don't believe it is. Anyway, if it is, then I'm gonna feel really stupid after this. Okay, let's show Light Ball. So Light Ball, as you can see, hit all the enemies. If I hit over here, it's still hitting the boss there. So a very nice area that it hits. And yeah, good for farming, although you got Empowered Fire Blast anyway. But yeah, basically just an alternative that's light. Now we get on to Infested Pig. So this is the really interesting one. They changed Polymorph, so it now works in a different way. In PvP, it now deals a Polymorph effect depending on the skill level. So here I've got level 99, so the duration is 12 seconds. So it says it's reduced by a third. That's wrong. I've asked them to change that. It's actually reduced to a third. So it's 4 second polymorph in PvP if you have it level 99. If you have it level 10, it's 6 second duration. So in PvP it's 2 seconds. Anyway, so that's kind of better, I think, in general. But here with this skill, they've turned it into like a super damaging skill. So one thing I should show first is the range. So if you use it, the normal skill, as you can see, it only hits very close. It's almost pointless. You can't really use it to hit things. The Exploding Sheep increased it. It's actually got it's got the same base range as Burst, and then Exploding Sheep. This increases the range to what you get on Expel, and as you can see, it hit all the enemies. I think it's in numbers range. It's 650. But anyway, so you can hit a larger area with that. It doesn't do it to the big enemies, and ultimately the damage is low. You can see there the range of it didn't hit those outer enemies. Now what they did with the new one is they made it do a ton of damage. So this, bear in mind, this isn't a pet skill or anything like that. So this is 100% shadow plus 15,000. 15,000 I'd say is roughly kind of 33% right now. and it does that every second for the duration. So I've got it 12 seconds here, so it's going to do 12 times 133% shadow, which is an insane figure. I mean, that is 1,600? Yes, 1,600 shadow, and obviously that's shadow, so it can be boosted. I've got 50% boost shadow right now, and these enemies are going to take double, so it's actually going to do triple that 1,600%. And the area it hits is humongous. It hit all those enemies there when I stood over here. It's 1,000 range, the same as Torrent. So if I just show Torrent here, that's the range it hits, right to the edge of that animation. And as you can see, the damage is terrific. Right now my build is kind of it's correctly geared, so I'm not overpowered, I'm not weak, and this is the kind of damage you can deal with it. Like I said, this is doubled again, but I don't have a high shadow stat. Anyway, so I could stand all the way over here, so you even hit the boss from here. It's crazy range, and you can see there, 1 million it's hitting. Yeah, about 1 million every second. And if you have a cooldown potion active, then it's got a 13-second cooldown, which means you can actually keep Polymorph effect on all those small enemies constantly. You've got to be careful, actually. Those guys seem to be still attacking me. I'm not sure exactly, because I haven't really played with Polymorph much. I don't know the exact specifics. But maybe you have to wait for a few seconds before polymorphing them again. Not sure. Anyway, the damage from it is terrific, and it's all kind of balanced because this is a 30-second cooldown skill, but it's a huge hitter that's just like a nuke that, yeah, is a massive area of effect nuke that should be awesome for PvP too. However, because the duration is much shorter in PvP, it's not so damaging. I mean, it does a third of the damage. So shouldn't be too much to worry about for the other classes, but it has been turned into a highly damaging skill, and I'm very happy because this skill has been terrible since the beginning of the game. Anyway, let's go on to the Archer Skuruns. So for the Archer Skuruns, they're fairly dull. Like I said, they're repeats of previous ones. So first up here we've got Radiant Volley. This is almost exactly the same as Water Volley. Excuse me. Except that it does slightly lower static damage, which isn't too much of a problem. I mean, it's probably noticeable, but not hugely. So it's got the faster fire rate, and you've got that light damage boost for 1 second, which is probably pointless. I mean, I haven't really tested it out, but I guess it's pointless. So otherwise, it's just it works exactly the same. As you can see, fast firing, pretty nice to pull off, good against shadow enemies. We haven't actually got light element on this skill before, so this is the first light Skurun on this, and it's actually the last element on here, so there's now all elements for this skill, which is quite cool. So I'll move on from that now. The next one we're going to look at is, if I can find it, here we go, Piercing Light. So Piercing Light is, again, an exact copy of a previous Skurun. It's the same as Piercing Ice, which is a surprisingly good Skurun. I've tried to mention it a few times to various people and say how good it is, because really it's quite awesome. So this is almost exactly the same. The damage is very slightly higher, so I mean it depends whether or not light is going to be effective against the enemies you're facing, or whether or not you have a higher water bonus or a light bonus. But anyway, so very cool. And just to show it here, what it looks like. So every few attacks, you're then going to get light damage. And actually, if you sit here attacking, you'll see just how much light damage you get going on the enemies. Look at all those light numbers that are happening. The damage is halved, so don't look at the exact numbers. But yeah, basically, you can do a lot of damage on top of your basic attacks. Does roughly, like I said before with Piercing Ice, does roughly double what you'd expect from Empowered Blasting Shot. Because of the proc rate on that and everything. So it's a good strong Skurun, nice light bonus. I think it's actually the only light bonus there is to basic attacks. So this is unique in that regard, and quite cool for that. Anyway, the last one is Dark Companion. This is a copy of Divine Companion, except boosted in the way that people wanted, because basically the healing effect is meant to be the unique thing about Divine Companion. However, it's a static heal. So actually, percentage-wise to your health, it's like 2% of your health, which is pointless. So really, you want a percent on that as well. So they added the percent on. The 7% plus that 6,000 equals just under kind of 10% of your health every time, and it attacks once every 1.5 seconds. Now I'm just going to get hurt, so I'll do that and then we'll take a look. Sorry if I kind of slurred my words a bit there. I meant to say I'm getting hurt. So you get this falcon out that's kind of invisible. It's very hard to see, and if you watch the healing there, that was all I'm going to show for the healing, really. Yeah, it's quite a useful little consistent heal. However, you need to have the enemies close. If you're really far away from the enemies, then basically the falcon will come to you, and it won't actually attack the enemies. So you need to have enemies nearby, and for that you probably need to use, Decoy level 99, so you can be standing close to it and tanking all the damage, and then have your falcon out, damaging the enemies and healing you. It's kind of, well, it's very situational, not that great in practice, but anyway, good to see that they listened to the feedback about Divine Companion and they made a better version of it. So yeah, it has got some healing effect to it. It attacks once every 1.5 seconds, which is quite consistent. You just need to be in melee distance, or close enough to your enemies that it's attacking in order to benefit from it. And probably in most cases you're not going to be actually getting hurt and hit and hurt as an archer. So the healing effect isn't that useful. Anyway, and the damage on it is as well as identical. It's not like a huge boost or anything. So that's how it is. So let's move on to the Night Scaroons. The Night Scaroons are a little bit more interesting than the Arch ones, so we can perk up a bit. Radiant Maim, unfortunately, because Flowing Blades is so strong, doesn't stand out. Flowing Blades got a massive buff when they redid the Scaroons, so it does 420% water. So this new Scaroon with 310% light doesn't really match up as the best one by any means. I'd really highly recommend Flowing Blades. However, against shadow enemies could be good, or if you have a high light bonus, then Radiant Maim could be strong. And that's its little niche there. And I think again, yes, this is the last element to be added to Maim. So we have now got all elements on that, which is quite cool. So I'll show that in a second. Another one to show as well is Grim Law. So this is for Lay on Hands, and it's an exact copy of Divine Law, literally exact. I don't know about the well, I say literally exact. I don't know the damage from Divine Law, the percentage, because it doesn't show it, but works in exactly the same way, hits the same area, all that kind of stuff. It's just a copy with the stats on it, your character stats. And to be honest, I much prefer the Protective Waves because that gives you a shield for 5 seconds. And but this does have its uses. So I'll just quickly show the Maim here. That's the Maim, just like the normal Maim, and you have the little boost to your light afterwards, which is kind of pointless. And then the Grim Law I will show. If I stand around about here, we'll use it, bang, hits all those, and then you can run away. And remember that damage was doubled. It's not particularly high. So the last one is Light Wield, and this is the really interesting one. So in the Scaroons, the best Scaroons for all classes video I made recently, I made a mistake and I said Empowered Twin Smite's the best. In fact, it's not. Shadow Wield is much better. Reason being is, sorry, I'm scrolling over loads of stuff here. Empowered Twin Smite does a lot of damage and it's got a high proc rate for that stuff. Actually, I forgot exactly how Shadow Wield works, and it deals 5,412 shadow damage on every single hit you do. Now what's confusing is that damage only comes out a short while later. It's like 1 or 2 seconds, well, a couple of seconds after you do the hits, so it's not so obvious it's happening, but it is on every single hit you do. It's actually also on some skill uses like Maim and Hurl. But anyway, so this new one is an exact copy of Shadow Wield, but just slightly stronger. And I'll show you it here. If I just attack the boss, after a bit, you'll see all the light damage come in. There we go, I've stopped attacking, and you can see all the hits going off there. If I use Maim, it actually gets it again. You'll see the light damage come a little bit later. There we go. And if I use Hurl, you'll see a lot of light damage hits suddenly going off. There we go. That was the proc effect. There's all the damage over time. You can see more activation with the proc effect. Now, I'm going to be showing a video to Rumble about this, but basically there's a trick you can do where basically you equip all the different Scaroons and then they all activate. So if you use something like, this is literally one Dancing Toxic here, and you can see, look at all those light damage, fire damage, shadow damage. It's crazy, absolutely crazy. This is definitely bugged and it's way too overpowered. You can just get all those going off. Anyway, we've run out of time. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.